Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Real Kindness Games. Pew, 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 pew. Always fun to do that. So, as you all know, the Real Kindness Games is about shedding light on our personal biases. It's about encouraging kindness by modeling curiosity in our conversations. It's so that we can appreciate another human being for the unique perspective that they bring so that we can heal our communities together. As humans, we have far more in common than that what divides us. Tim, what do you think?
I have a unique perspective. I have a jackalope on my hat. It's a rabbit with antlers.
I was like, what is that, Tim?
It's awesome. That's what that is. You're welcome.
Now, I think you're going to have to tell people what a jackalope is because that
Hey, you know what? I
that was
could tell
interesting for
people a
me.
story, or they could Google it.
People can Google things?
It's a thing. It just happened this year.
Well, Tim, I'm really excited about today's conversation because I know we've been talking a lot about, what a struggle is and why it's an important part of mattering. Like we matter as people. So the question today is, are we prepared to matter?
Mm.
What do you think?
I think that's an interesting question. So there's a little bit of a weirdness to that question, because there's underlying questions like, do we matter? And if so, to who and why? Should I matter, or is that just selfish? Do other people think I matter? It's a very, very subjective, not objective thing, right? And so one of the things that you and I have been talking about lately is the struggle of life. I've been writing my thoughts and stories. You've been writing some stories and some articles, but as we've gotten through this pandemic, it's a struggle. And there is a certain amount of people that embrace the struggle, maybe too much. They embrace it so much that they want to cause the struggle, which is maybe a little bit too far. Then there's people that reject the struggle outright. I will not be in a struggle. It is uncomfortable. I cannot do it, will not do it. And so they passively float through life. And this is a lot of times where we do find those people that have the victim mentality. Well, things are just happening to me. Yes. If you do nothing in this world, things will happen to you. You will do nothing to help direct your own path. But there's a sweet spot. There's a sweet spot to where we get to choose our struggles, right? And I often say, and I've heard other people say, that when you're struggling with something, it doesn't feel good, but you should take heart, because that means you're making progress. That means you're moving forward. It's funny, if you go climb a mountain, you don't do it because it's easy. Actually, you train for a really long time because it's very hard. People die climbing mountains. But then you get a rare view. You get to experience something that very few people in this world have experienced. And so I guess if we're going to be prepared to matter, we need to talk about, like, what's your view? Like, what is the view that you want to take in that is rare?
Yeah, I love that because I think a lot of times people try so hard to be like everyone else, right? They're just like, oh, like I want to be part of this community, and so I have to adjust myself. I have to make myself turn myself into this mold so that I can be accepted by this community and so that I can matter to them. But really, before you can matter to anyone else, you have to matter to yourself. You have to look internally and say, do I matter to myself? Are the things that I'm working towards today something that I really care about? And what I'm doing today, would I be proud of what I'm doing? Would I be proud of the way that I am I am visualizing myself to the outer world. And so that brings us back to that challenge, right? It brings us back to that struggle. When you're struggling, if you struggled a lot at an early age, right? Like you struggled as a child, maybe in your youth, you maybe have gone through a lot of deaths in your family or some tragic thing, struggle and say, well, I struggled in my young age, so I don't want to struggle in my old age and I want to just coast. Or you can say, because I learned to cope at such a young age, now I have the skill sets necessary to cope in my middle age, in my old age, because struggle is not something that's like, okay, it comes and then it's gone forever. I say struggles come in slips and surges. Some days that struggle is going to be something that energizes you, something that makes you like really push towards your goals, your life journey. And sometimes that struggle is going to come from something that you did not anticipate. You did not want that struggle in your life, but you can't move away from it. You can't ignore it. You can't avoid it. You have to look at that struggle in the face and say, I am going to push through. It's the same way that you were saying, Tim. It's like, it's what people from, it makes them from victims to survivors, right? Like you have to like work towards what you're working towards and say, no, I will look at struggle straight in the face today and say, not today, sir, not today.
Not today. I like that. And let's go back to the point of choosing your struggle, right? So we kicked off this year with Rob McKenna talking about our shared humanity. What does it mean to be humans? What does it mean to share humanity and have more in common than ever could divide us? And one of the things that he really brought up is, in any given situation, you should ask yourself, what is my purpose for this conversation? What is my purpose for this person, for this relationship? And I would take that a step further. Right now, if you are floating, if you are not understanding if you matter, or what does mattering look like, what is your purpose? We all are here as humans to strive towards a purpose. And people without purpose generally are people who are depressed and completely dissatisfied with life, because there's nothing to strive towards. There's no goal, there's no meaning to your life. And I've fallen into the category to where I realize that life is a journey, whether you're directing it or not. And so how do we choose a journey that's worth the struggle?
Yeah, that honestly, I think the passion and the purpose conversation is something that we frequently talk about, right? Like, what is your passion? What are you working towards? What is your mission? What defines you, right? I think a lot of people sometimes struggle with that concept of purpose. What is my purpose in life, and how do I come to find it? Like, you are going to question yourself over and over and over again. And the best thing that you can do to find your purpose is reflection. Look to your past, look to the people that you admire and see what they're doing, see what their purpose is.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have some unique purpose of like, this is just purpose that like is inherent to me. You can join somebody else's purpose and say, your purpose energizes me, so that I will join with you and move through your purpose together. Tim and I came together in our singular purpose of saying, we want to have conversations with people based in curiosity and kindness.
Yep.
Although we come from two different backgrounds, we have, two different ideals and perspectives, we share this singular purpose. And your purpose doesn't have to be just one purpose. You can have many purposes.
And it doesn't have to stay the same. It can
No, it
change.
doesn't. Absolutely not.
And so that's where I think people get hung up on purpose. They're like, oh, how would I
Yeah.
know my life's purpose? Guess what? You're going to live way longer than you want to, in all honesty. I'm just saying. Most of us are going to be like, whew, this is a long time. So you're going to have to set goals and experiment.
Yeah.
I think
Experimentation is fun.
this might be interesting. I think this might be fun. Let's drive towards that and see where it lands me. Experiment. Do some adventuring.
And And your purpose doesn't have to be like direct. Your purpose doesn't have to be like, my purpose on this planet is to build robots. No, your purpose could be like, my purpose is to make people happy, right?
Yep.
Like anything that makes others happy, or my purpose is to make sure that I find happiness in life. I felt like my purpose was to find happiness in life. And so I picked up the first thing that I thought made me happy. I picked up playing the ukulele. It's been so much fun. Now, is that going to be my purpose forever? Like to learn new things? Oh,
Do it.
every day, baby. Every day.
Hit it.
Every day. Now we're gonna have one more jamming session, another point.
Rainbow. I love that song.
It's a fun song to play.
It is awesome.
But seriously, remember that like a purpose is connected to you. It's like we can keep going back to that concept of mattering, right? Like, are you prepared to matter? Are you prepared to tell people that this is my purpose, even if it feels a little uncomfortable at that time? Even if you're like, I don't know if this is my purpose, just do it. Do it. Telling you to do it. You can do it, and I believe in you.
Awesome. And you know what? Some people are going to challenge your purpose, right?
100%.
That is what life is about. This is why we have struggle and conflict. We can't get away with it, because no matter how you choose to actively live your life or passively live your life, somebody will challenge you. It's just where we're at. And so we talked about problem solving 101, right? We talked about it in conversations around the dinner table at family events. You know, these are coming. But we can apply that broader, right? If you choose a purpose, if you are going to choose a path to walk, the reason that you're having trouble with it is because you already know somebody who's going to try to knock you off that path, derail you, criticize you, right? And so explore that purpose. Why is it so important for you? And then how are you going to deal with that criticism? We have two choices. We have three choices. We can internalize it and allow us to turn bitter and crumble because of the feedback or criticism. Two, we can deflect it and become angry and turn it into a big fight. Or three, we can have that conversation and understand their perspective and teach them about our perspective, knowing that we may not agree, and that's okay. But if we hear them, there is a much better chance that they might hear us. And then at least you've made a connection,
100%.
right? And then the
100%.
next time that comes up, if they're a person of good intent, the criticism or the feedback will be different. It'll be more educated. And you never know, over a period of time, these might turn into really interesting conversations that are better for you than you realize. But if you don't choose to engage, you'll never know.
Agreed. And I think there's going to be certain points where sometimes you get into a conversation and people will gaslight you. They'll make you feel like your opinion is just completely off left field and you are wrong in believing what you're believing. Those are the times where you have to just take a step back, take a breath, and don't let them anger you. Don't let them make you become a person that you don't want to become, where your voice is rising, your tone is rising, you're flustering in your words. Stay true to who you are and stay true to what you believe, and just continue to try to have a very calm, educated conversation, because that person will never change their minds. There will be people you just can't move. But there is going to be a population where you can have a kind, fun conversation. They'll tell you something you didn't know before. You'll tell them something they didn't know before. And before you know it, you've built a stronger relationship with this person that you came to odds with all the time. And now every time you go to a dinner, like a family dinner or something, they're going to look forward to having a conversation with you, because now it's not just a debate for the sake of having a debate, but really you're learning from each other. You're trying to create an environment where each of you are bringing in a new perspective and you're creating a fun conversation. You're creating a space where you can both come as yourselves, bringing your ideas, bringing your perceptions, and you're making dinners great again.
Making dinners great again. And guess what? Shying away from the struggle is not going to make that criticism or feedback or person go
Agreed.
away. They will keep coming because they believe they are right and you don't know why you're doing the thing you do. And they may have good intentions, they may not, but problem solving in advance, choosing how you're going to engage in that specific struggle for the best outcome possible will develop character. It will develop your thought process, and you'll be stronger and you'll be more respected for that. And lastly, we talked with the great Angela Scalpello about having enjoyable conversation, right? Because understanding that we're all humans, doing the problem solving in advance, and how am I going to react when I'm caught off guard, all plays into how can we again enjoy conversations where we don't fully agree, where I shy away from having conversations with Kekishan because I'm afraid we might not agree. And then like, I don't want to not like her. So we're just not going to talk about anything meaningful that we could have an opinion on. How are the flowers? I don't like flowers. Shit. I guess I'm done. Right?
You could be, or you could test the waters, right? Like if you know someone doesn't agree with your opinion, just throwing your opinion at them and saying, well, this is what I believe, and I can't believe you're wrong. Enjoyable conversation, right? Like to have an enjoyable conversation, you have to ask the question, what is my purpose in this conversation, right? Like, are you trying to have the person just understand your experience and understand where you're coming from, or you're just trying for them to agree with your point, which should never be the point of a conversation. Right now, if you're doing a sales pitch, that's all you. But when you're trying to have just a general conversation, it has to be two-sided. It has to be a conversation where you're willing to understand that if someone's perspective doesn't meet yours, that it's okay. It's okay, and you can still have a kind, awesome conversation.
And how can you turn a conversation that maybe started enjoyable, it hit that awkward point, and you're like, oh, I totally don't agree. What are we going to do now? How do you turn it back to being enjoyable? You lead with curiosity. You say, you know what? I don't understand how you have that opinion, how you've arrived there, why you would think that. But if you would have me understand 3 points, 3 things about your position, what would they be? Can you tell me about those? Because I at least want to know how you would like to be understood and perceived. That will get them to explain, that will get them to open up, that will create a connection, and you don't have to judge because you're learning. And now the next time you come together, you will understand a little bit more about them and you can build on that foundation. And again, we don't have to all agree, but we should seek to understand.
Yeah. And I think when you kind of drive at somebody else's perspective and you drive to, why do you have this perception? You learn to understand their struggles,
Yep.
right? Like you understand their life perspective, because no one is going to have the same background as you. No one's going to have the same upbringing, maybe your siblings, but even they have different experiences than you had, because every single moment in our life, we are making a choice A, choice B, choice C. And each choice that we make has a consequence, and that consequence drives our experiences. And those experiences drive our perspective. And from there, we understand if we choose to matter or if we don't choose to matter, right? It goes right back to full circle. So even while you're having a conversation that might be hard, think about the struggle. Are you willing to struggle through a 30-minute conversation so that you can come out on the other side with a strong relationship? Or would you rather just close yourself down and say, you know what, I don't want to have this conversation right now, and just walk away? Just imagine the possibilities.
Yeah. Who's going to do the NPR? I've been doing them a lot lately. What do you think?
Oh man. All right, let's do this.
Scene.
When we struggle, as a human being, we create a perspective that we would have never had before. If life were just full of rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns, we would never understand what the real impactful moments in our life were. To be able to get to the grass is greener side, you have to see the brown grass. To get to summer, you have to go through winter. So remember, the struggle, the struggle is something to help you recognize what it is that you're enjoying in life. Embrace the struggle, embrace the suck. Go through it, take on your partners, and prepare yourself to matter.
Nice, nice. I love how we just like ad lib those little NPR moments. It's fun.
I feel like they're getting better and better day after day. I dig it.
So I guess we could leave the audience with a question. Are you prepared to matter? And if not, what would you do if you wanted to be prepared to matter?